Michael Brown now has a talk show in Denver, and his line is dumbassery. There's more dumbassery, and I love that. So here's dumbassery number one. Only in it for the money. Okay. Now, so here's my list of dumbassery to start with. Only in it for the money.
How do you spell dumbassery?
You know why?
Beautiful.
There you go. So here's some dumbassery, you know. Only in it for the money. My favorite quote remains the Paul McCartney quote. Is more or less, there was this idea that the Beatles were anti-materialistic, nothing could be further from the truth. John, meaning John Lennon, and I would sit down and say, hey, let's write ourselves a swimming pool. Now, see, that's some of the most iconic music ever. They're still the best-selling recording act ever. They had such an incredible live response. They got pissed off about doing live shows and stopped doing live shows because nobody would shut up long enough to let them play, right? So, and I also like that Bruce Lee thing, right? I mean, was Bruce Lee in it for the money? Absolutely, he was in it for the money. Have you guys seen that Bruce Lee quote, you know, that goal sheet? You know, I will be the most recognized Oriental martial artist in history, and I will have in my possession $10 million, and this is in 1969 dollars, by the way, and then be able to live life as I choose, right? By the way, what did Bruce Lee drive? In LA, he bought a Porsche 911. There's a famous story of Steve McQueen taking him through Mulholland Canyon with Bruce Lee crawled underneath the dash saying, stop or I'm going to kill you. Because Steve McQueen was in fact a race car driver, and Bruce Lee asked him about, you know, should I get a Porsche? He said, come on, I'll take you for a drive, and he did the race car route through Mulholland Drive. And I know that story is true because June Rhee has done the same thing to me from time to time, yelling at me, I drive like Bruce Lee. So apparently Bruce Lee drove like Steve McQueen, who I drive like Bruce Lee. So, according to June Rhee anyway. In my Turbo 911, which June Rhee didn't appreciate very much. So Bruce Lee was in it for the money, right? I was with Chuck Norris at his ranch in Navasota, Texas, and had been with him quite a bit around that period of time, and I said, to the point that I said to him, I said, well, you know, this whole fame thing is a pain in the ass. And he had this big, still does, 660-acre ranch where he had like a quad runner track and horses and one thing or another. And his girlfriend at the time, it's not the same woman who's his wife now, but his girlfriend at the time said, well, yeah, he has to do all that stuff because we can't really like go out anywhere. So we, you know, anything we're going to do, we have to do it here. And I had said to him, well, Chuck, is all the fame worth all the fortune? You know what his response was? He said, well, I've been rich, I've been poor, rich is better. Okay. Not a bad response, right? Now, the worst possible world would be to be famous and broke, right? Yeah. I'd much rather be rich and anonymous, right? But, so, that, you know, dumbassery number one is it's only in it for the money, right? Ayn Rand's line was enlightened self-interest, right? If you're running a business that is a school, is an educational endeavor, your enlightened self-interest, in other words, the thing that's going to return the best to you, is keeping them a long time, providing overwhelming service, having them, number one, be happy, and number two, really achieve the thing that you want to do, right? And by the way, for all of us, are we in it for the money? Absolutely. You guys aren't paying a small tuition. In fact, it's going up, right? So, but what's in our best interest? Tons and tons and tons of stories like that. If we can get you to go, I mean, what I tell people is, tell me if this is true or not. What I tell people, I was just talking to one of Joe Lewis's top schools, not Joe Lewis, Bill Wallace, a couple days ago, and what I said to him is, well, really, if you wanted to boil it down, we're really good at taking what your current gross is and turning that into what your net is. Is that a simple enough elevator pitch? Does that ring true? Colby, is that a good way to say it?
Yep, per month.
So when you started, what were you grossing?
When we started with you guys,
Yeah.
it was grossing about 30
Okay, and what do you
A
gross?
month or a year?
a month.
Yeah, yeah,
A month.
yeah, and is it fair to say that you're at or close to that your net?
Yes.
See, so that's a true statement, and it's an easy way to describe it, right? So your enlightened self-interest with your students is what? Well, you want it to be a high revenue per student, but that only comes if you keep them a long time. And it only comes if you really fulfill your promises, right? And you want them to all give you lots of referrals. People only bring their kids to you, their siblings to you, their friends to you, if everything you promised them turned out to be true, right? That's the only way that happens. And it's certainly true that you can have an intro and get them to give you referrals before they discover that you're a fraud. But that's certainly not a very sustainable business model, right? The only way long-term is you fulfill your promises, you keep them as long as humanly possible, which frankly in our type of thing is the only way the promise gets fulfilled, because if they drop out in 3 or 4 months, it's not going to happen.